2023 was quite a year in Ohio. Can 2024 top it? Welcome to Columbus on the Record. 2023 was an incredible year in Ohio politics. The former Speaker of the House began a 20-year prison sentence this year. Ohio voters rejected an attempt to change the rules, and then they guaranteed abortion rights. They also legalized marijuana for fun, and those stories are far from over as the new year begins. First, with abortion rights secured in the Constitution, it will be up to the courts and likely lawmakers to guide how those rights will be protected or restricted in the years to come. Anna Staver, the question now is the so-called heartbeat law. It has been on hold for about a year. This is the 6-week ban, but it will face a court decision early in 24.
Yeah, the Supreme Court decided not to take up two side issues. So this was something, so when it got to the Ohio Supreme Court, it wasn't about whether the heartbeat bill was legal. It was about whether abortion clinics had the right to sue, so standing, which is the legal term for right to sue. And it was also about whether it could be appealed straight to the Supreme Court. Now, Attorney General Dave Yost said, hey, I really think you guys should look at this. They said no. It went back to the Hamilton County Court, where we expect it will almost certainly be found unconstitutional. Even Dave Yost said, based on the new amendment, this law isn't legal.
So if we take a step back, I mean, we have to go back almost to 22 when the Dobbs decision overturned Roe, but could abortion rights opponents, Mike, could they have done anything different in the past year to either prevent that amendment from passing or have restrictions that are more onerous than what that amendment allows?
Well, Mike, I think it would have passed. As I told you, I think before, that I thought it would go at least 55%. I guess it ended up 57. But could they have done anything to stop the passage? I'm not sure. Could they have given themselves a better chance? Yes, they could have. And I think the rape and incest thing is just, right there. It's just, to me, when you deny a person the right to an abortion under those circumstances, it's, I don't know if anybody goes along with it, except maybe the people that wrote the bill.
Laura, did lawmakers underestimate public opinion on this? Were they not believing the polls? Because the polls have been pretty consistent even before Roe was overturned. It was 55-45 in favor of abortion rights with restrictions.
I mean, I think that's why they did issue one in August, was because they knew it would pass in the mid to high 50s, yeah. And they wanted to make it, move the bar up. And so I think that they knew that was coming. I do think, hindsight being 2020, they probably could have passed another law that's, again, has an exception for rape and incest. Maybe it was a 15-week ban. And I think that would have taken the wind out of the sails of the pro-issue one folks.
But they couldn't do that. The Republicans in control of the House and the Senate here in Ohio got trapped. And they get trapped for the same reason that they get trapped in topics that we've discussed in this group over the years, and that is because gerrymandering has distilled the support that they need from their base, from the hardened base. So there was no way that they could do something like Laura suggested. But yes, that would have done it.
But even Governor DeWine was saying that the majority of Ohioans don't agree with the Roe decision, but 57% said yes, 14-point margin. Do we expect this to go back on the ballot anytime soon? There was talk of that right after the vote when the emotions were high.
Yeah, I think maybe. So the argument that I've heard from Republicans now is they think that this amendment, as it was written, the argument they've been making all along, that it was too broad, that it would allow all kinds of abortions and perhaps things beyond abortion that Ohioans didn't intend. So I think they're kind of, I don't know, they're making this assumption that maybe Ohioans won't like the way this amendment plays out, and then maybe there will be an opening to come back with something more restrictive in the future.
And Mike, if those things don't happen, it's going to be hard to roll this amendment back.
Well, I think it's hard anyway, Mike. I mean, you look across the country. Now, I don't know, the bills are all different, but, you know, what was it, Oklahoma? We had one of the first ones out.
Kansas.
Kansas, you know,
yeah.
a solid Midwestern conservative state. And, you know, they affirmed having the right to an abortion. Again, it was somewhere in the 55-45, which is, you know, a pretty wide margin. So I don't see anything happening in the near future.
The issue one, you know, the first issue one, the one that would have required a 60% threshold to pass a constitutional amendment, and then we had the issue one in November, which was the Abortion Rights Amendment. Laura, do you think the issue, how did that issue, the first issue one play? Did it exhaust abortion rights opponents coming into November, and did it just fire up abortion rights supporters that carried on to November?
I think that it they kind of kicked the hornet's nest with that in the August one. People turned out in huge numbers for an August election. I mean, my gosh, they got rid of August elections because the turnout had been so low in previous elections, and I think that it fired up both sides for the November vote. But the polling showed that really the yes, we want these rights was much stronger.
So, Joe, what do you think lawmakers do now? Because we still have the 24-hour waiting period. We still have the mandatory transfer agreements where clinics have to have an agreement with a hospital for emergencies. And we still have the parental consent part of the law.
That's right.
Do lawmakers tinker with any of that, or they'll be up to the courts, do you think?
I think that'll be up to the courts. And I was thinking about that just over the last couple of days. How much room is there within the system for the abortion opponents, or those that don't like this particular version of it, to navigate? And I think the parental consent, or at least parental information, will definitely be something that you're not going to get a lot of pushback on. The stuff on the clinics and being able for the doctors to be, I forget what the term is, registered in a hospital and all that, I think those actually will fall. But I think the courts are going to be the ones that will deal with it.
Anna, do you think this debate calms down? Because it's been such a polarizing debate, but now the voters have had their say. Even Mike Onondagas from Ohio Right to Life on the show last week said now they're going to focus on keeping the laws they have, but also work on changing hearts and mind and try to encourage women to keep babies through term, through support prenatal care, and then support after birth. Do you think that's where this argument goes now, this debate goes?
I actually think if they did a legislative repeal, it would be one and done, whereas all these laws are going to be litigated individually, right? So 24-hour waiting periods, mandatory ultrasounds, you know, there's a bunch of information that doctors are required to give a woman if she's seeking an abortion. And I actually think we're going to get news stories each and every time one of those gets a decision. And if you did it legislatively, theoretically, you could do it all at once, and that would be the story, and then you just move on.
Will this debate move on, Mike, do you think? We'll
Well,
get beyond this as a society?
I don't think it'll ever die, Mike. I mean, it's like, you know, the death penalty. My whole life it's been a debate. And this, in a way, is a similar thing. Yeah. So people are entrenched one way, and I think it's going to go on for a long time. But do I see any change in the near future? No, I don't.
All right. If Ohioans are so inclined, they can put marijuana gummies in Christmas stockings this year, legally. Voters legalized recreational marijuana in November. The law took effect earlier this month. Now it is up to lawmakers to change the law if they want. The year ends, however, with the law standing unchanged from what voters approved in November. Joe Mas, a year from now, will Ohio look a lot different? Will it smell a lot different than it does now with legal marijuana?
I actually can answer that because I've traveled to California, to Colorado, and spent a lot of time in Michigan. And no, it won't smell any differently. Quite frankly, you can't really tell the difference in being in those states. You can, and one thing in common, by the way, is the issue that has been in the papers lately, and that is being able to smoke in public places. None of those states allow it. So more than likely that's going to be part of what we do. I anticipate, and of course there was a Senate bill that did pass the Senate here in Ohio, but got stuck in the House, that was relatively normal, if I may use the term.
Normal,
no pun intended.
No,
Yes.
what the national organization, whatever it is,
Reform of
legalizing
marijuana
marijuana.
laws.
Yes. Laura, again, lawmakers, did they misread public opinion on this? And for 2 years, we've been talking about legalizing recreational marijuana. Lawmakers.
We've been talking about it longer than that.
Since medical became legal, really, we started talking about it a lot.
Sure. I mean, they legalized medical after the 2015 medical and recreational failed because of kind of structural problems with that. And I think that prompted the lawmakers to say, let's do a robust medical program and maybe that'll take care of this. It did not. I mean, the demand for recreational is still there. They could have, tapered the law to how they felt was going to be the best package, et cetera, when it was sitting in front of them for 4 months. They decided not to. They decided to roll the dice, see how the voters came out with it, and now they're trying to make those changes. And it's not going over very well.
Yeah. How does law enforcement, Mike, how do they view this now? Does there a burden lift off of, not that they were really aggressively going after marijuana folks lately anyway. Early on they did, but not in the past decade or so. Is this a burden off of their plate and they can focus on other things now or no?
I don't think so, Mike. As you say, I don't think they paid much attention to it. It's been a minor misdemeanor or something, which is, nothing like a speeding ticket, or maybe less than that. And so I don't think this is going to remove a lot of their work. It's not necessary anymore. May even help them a little bit. I think the only thing you'll see is probably you'll see some more expense and time on driving under the influence, because it's a much more difficult and much more a deeper process to test somebody for use of drugs than it is for alcohol. That's pretty simple. So I think you'll see more than that. Other than that, I don't think there's a problem with law enforcement.
And now we get into the rulemaking phase and how quickly the medical dispensaries can start selling marijuana to everybody. It was over 21. Mike DeWine mentioned that, Governor DeWine mentioned that had they gone with this bill, we could be buying marijuana in January for fun.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that would have happened, but that's what he said anyway.
Yeah, he had some concerns about the black market, right? And now that marijuana is legal, whether people would be more inclined to purchase it and use it. And he had concerns about, obviously, the potency, the quality, what you're getting, because you don't really know if something else is mixed in. So he offered immediate sales at medical marijuana dispensaries, but the House didn't pick that up. They said they still got time. Theoretically, it's next August, probably next fall, that we'll be seeing recreational sales once the licensing works through. But it is possible that it could come sooner.
Do we expect, Laura, any big changes to this law, and when the lawmakers come back after the new year?
I think that the House and the Senate are still at odds over this, and I think that the longer we get into the current situation, which is that it's legal and people are allowed to plant their plants and bake their brownies, I think it makes it more difficult to change the law later.
Now, bars, there was a Department of Commerce who regulates bars and liquor licenses. They advise bars that you can't have your patrons smoking, even on the patio, smoking marijuana. Is that the case in Michigan?
They can pull the license.
Michigan,
yeah, that's correct. No, I don't think you're going to get much pushback on that. I think it's a reasonable provision. As I said, the other states have it, and they've been able to navigate through it without a problem. So no.
It's like open container, right? I mean, you can't walk down most streets with an open beer.
Well,
there are doors where there's little signs saying you can drink here, but then you got to, dump it out when you get past this sign.
We went through a period long before marijuana with smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
And some restaurants would say no smoking. Some I know would say, do you prefer smoking or non-smoking? They would split it up. So I don't think this is going to be much of a problem for anybody. And the bar owners or restaurant owners will be very careful with it, because paying a fine and losing your license is a very, very serious matter. The smoker, nothing happens to him, I don't think, or her.
Of course, smoking is easy to spot. Popping a gummy, it could just be a throat lozenge.
That's right.
You don't know. Anyway, it's now a 3-month sprint to the primary finish for Republicans running for U.S. Senate. The 3 major candidates have all filed their paperwork. They are State Senator Matt Dolan, Secretary of State Frank LaRose, and Cleveland businessman Bernie Moreno. 2 of those 3 had been angling for the endorsement of former President Donald Trump. And this week, Trump chose Bernie Moreno, announcing on Truth Social that Ohio needs an outsider to beat Sherrod Brown. Mike Miller, does this clinch it for Bernie Moreno? Do Ohio Republicans see this endorsement and then fall in line like they kind of did with J.D. Vance?
Well, I think it certainly helps Marino a great deal. Does it clinch it? No, I don't think so. LaRose has always been, as we know, very pro-Trump. He wanted the endorsement in the worst way, which we understand. It carries weight in Ohio. But Dolan is sitting there not doing that and is very conservative on his own right. I think there'll be a lot of people that are Trump-type people that'll split between Marino and LaRose. I suppose Marino will get the most. And a lot of never-Trumpers will coalesce around Dolan. So I don't think it's over yet by any means. And everybody, Dolan and Marino are very wealthy and can put a lot of money into it. And now we've got LaRose that just got, LaRose that just got a $3 million donation. So it looks like everybody's going to have some money.
Yeah, Anna, that donation came from Richard Uihlein from Illinois, I believe. He also does business in Wisconsin. He's the guy who gave a lot of money to the first Issue 1 campaign, the 60% threshold. And that's a shot in the arm for Frank LaRose after the disappointing non-endorsement.
Yeah, but I mean, also keep in mind, I think Bernie's got about 5 million and Dolan's got about 6, so it's still half of what the other guys have. And you know, Matt Dolan's family owns the Cleveland Guardians. For folks who don't know, Bernie Moreno has a bunch of car dealerships. He also is a multimillionaire, so like they can just keep dumping and dumping, and that's their choice. But he was. I spaced on his name, Frank LaRose. Yes. Ha! Frank LaRose is always going to be outspent, right? And this has always been a larger question, whether he could fundraise, because let's be honest, Sherrod Brown is going to have a ton of money come November, and you're going to need a Republican that can really raise the money.
$3 million, it's only 3 months till the March primary, so $3 million could get Frank LaRose on the air enough to at least keep pace with Bernie Moreno, right?
Right, and then also keep in mind that Frank LaRose has been elected statewide twice. Moreno and Dolan have not. So he has an advantage on that level. So maybe he doesn't need as much money to get his name out there. His name's already been on the ballot.
The polls are kind of inconclusive. Of course, we're not really getting true poll numbers. We're hearing about internal polls showing Bernie Moreno ahead. We have a Survey USA poll that has Frank LaRose ahead, but there's questions on the methodology there. So we really don't have a good, solid gauge of where this race stands right now.
Well, I think the interesting thing is what direction is LaRose going to take? Now that Trump has made his announcement, does that mean that LaRose has the opportunity, I think as Mike implied, to perhaps carve his own path? Or is he still trying to reach out to the Trump base or do what everybody else is doing, which is trying not to offend Trump very much, but still sound Trumpian?
No, we have a long time to go before even March, but I mean, the bad news keeps piling up for Donald Trump, and so far, Mike, he's been able to weather it, and among his base, his support sort of coalesces. But if he goes on trial, or if this Colorado Supreme Court ruling stands, and there's further chinks in that armor, might that not make that endorsement as valuable?
Well, it might. I doubt it. Trump is a different type of person. His supporters seem to be wedded to him regardless. And I point to an incident, in 2016 when he was running, and he attacked for no reason. I mean, no one had said anything. He just came down and attacked John McCain. And I don't know a Democrat that dislikes John McCain. Yeah. I mean, he's a war hero. He was a wonderful person. All this sort of thing. And I thought, watching this, he's going right down the tubes. They did a poll about 2 days later, and he went up. Yeah. So it just, to me, I've just never seen anything quite like it.
But Andy, you look at the polls in New Hampshire, and we don't know yet because it's going to happen after the first of the year. New Hampshire, Iowa, Nikki Haley coming up a bit. Ron DeSantis, is still there. If they overperform, that could perhaps break some never-Trumpers off.
It's entirely possible. Didn't Ted Cruz win Iowa in 2016? I believe so.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes you never know. You can Iowa does the caucus system where you go and fight it out in person in like classrooms across the state. So you never quite know how that's going to shake out. Yeah. It's kind of a wild process, but I would be really surprised if Ohio didn't go for Trump. I mean, I think, we were one of the first state parties to endorse him. He still has, 8, 9, 10-point leads in polling. And I think that's, problematic for LaRose because Trump's going to be on the ballot right next to him. And J.D. Vance has also endorsed Bernie Moreno. If the three of them get together and campaign together in February and March, that's going to be hard.
All right, let's get to our last topic. 2023 saw a federal jury convict former House Speaker Larry Householder and lobbyist Matt Borges on racketeering charges in the nuclear plant bailout scandal. They now live in federal prison. This month, the state's former chief utility regulator was indicted for bribery in that same case. Sam Randazzo has pleaded not guilty. We enter 2024 waiting to see if others will be charged, namely executives at First Energy, the company that says it bribed Sam Randazzo. Laura Bischoff, the trials, if there's a trial with Sam Randazzo, that's probably not going to happen in 24. But do you think next year will be the end of the investigation in this case, and all that will be charged by the end of next year, 24?
I would say yes, but it's the federal system, and it seems like they move at a glacier pace. I mean, it took 2.5 years between the time that they arrested and indicted Matt Borges and Larry Householder and the others to take them to trial. I think probably the Randazzo one will move a little bit more quickly, but it also depends on, if they're going to indict other people, are they going to do a superseding indictment and add them to the Randazzo indictment? Are they going to do it separately? I don't know what their strategies are. Ken Parker, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District, says that his team is still working on the case and they're going to go wherever the evidence takes them.
Mike, how will this play out, do you believe, in the next 6 months? Do you see the First Energy executives being charged or perhaps working out a plea deal?
Well, not only do I see that, Mike, it may have taken place a year ago. In the federal courts, you can enter a plea, they can seal everything. And so you'll have people that have pled to this thing, they haven't been sentenced, of course, that no one knows about. And when you've got the people from First Energy, if you accept what they say is accurate, saying, we did the bribing, I don't know how you can avoid not charging those people. And as I say, I would be a bit surprised if it's already done and they're just awaiting sentencing. But the plea has been sealed from the public for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in these federal cases, as Mike just suggested, you want to be first in line. You don't necessarily want to start saying, no, I really didn't do this, and then have Randazzo, as part of some sort of a plea deal, say, this guy was involved, and he was involved in this particular way. You want to be upfront with it.
The system that led to all this remains in place. There's been talk about reforming things at the State House, hasn't gone anywhere. House Bill 6 is still in effect. The coal plants that got subsidies, they still get them. The renewable energy mandates are gone, Anna. Is dark money and money still going to play as big a role as it has going forward?
I would assume so. I mean, there's nothing that's changed legally speaking about how we collect it. One of the fascinating things about the trial was just getting to see all of that money and how it was funneled and where it went, because you don't get to see that as a reporter or as even politicians were sort of flabbergasted at the behind the scenes look at how it's all getting funneled in all these different places. But unfortunately, the legislature hasn't, there's been a number of bills introduced. I will say that. There's been a number of different pieces of legislation introduced, but they have not gone anywhere.
Now, Laura, you were in the courtroom when Householder was sentenced and led immediately away to prison. If I'm a state, of course it wasn't on TV, but if you're a State House person and you see that, you hear that, wouldn't that prompt you? This Larry Householder, one of the dominant figures in this State House for a long time, is in jail now.
I mean, I saw it live in person, just feet away, and I was flabbergasted. I mean, this is a guy I'd covered for 20 years. I think that the message obviously got conveyed via the media. People read the stories. But I think people could say, that was Larry Householder, and he went way over the line into pay to play. And I'm using a dark money group, but I'm following the laws on it. I'm not doing quid pro quo. So he's a cautionary tale, but I think people could say, that's not my tale. That's not what I'm doing.
Joe, you don't see any big reforms coming on campaign financing in Ohio? More transparency?
No. I don't. I just don't think so. I think we don't have the dynamics to be able to get that done.
All right, let's get to our final off-the-record parting shots, perhaps some predictions for 24. And Mike Miller, we'll start with you.
Well, we've already discussed this, but I think the Senate race is going to be really an exciting race between the three Republicans, and then whoever wins goes against Sherrod Brown. And the Senate, the United States Senate, is so tight. It's a very important race to both parties. It could be, theoretically, controlling of the Senate. So I think from now on until election in November, we're going to get a lot of action in the media and so forth on that race.
Joe.
Mike, something really interesting happened this week. The European Union engaged in discussions concerning immigration, and at the same time, the White House and Congress were doing the same thing here in order to address the increase in asylum applicants. This is a major, and has been a major Republican talking point. I think the Democrats have got to somehow come up with a way to address this that addresses the humanitarian issues as well.
Anna.
So the political news isn't over for the year yet. Governor Mike DeWine has a controversial bill dealing with transgender children, and we're still going to be watching for the last days to see whether he signs it or he vetoes it.
All right. And Laura.
Yeah, I did a story on the Expedited Pardon Project, which is something that Governor DeWine started. It's like when you get a governor's pardon, it's like winning the lottery, and now there are more tickets available. This is a process where law students and faculty will help people who are 10 years out from their sentence go ahead and get the pardon and get the hurdles that a criminal conviction present to you, get those wiped out.
Something to watch for. I predict, as a Syracuse grad and an OSU grad, that Kyle McCord, like another OSU quarterback who was shunned by his team, will win the national championship, win the Heisman, get drafted by the Browns, and lead them to the Super Bowl. That is Columbus on the Record for this week. Check us out online, Facebook, and watch us at our website, wosu.org, YouTube, and the video app by PBS. I'm Mike Thompson. Have a good week.